Hi, the SI meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, December 3rd. Just an amazing Arctic air outbreak is now affecting the northwestern part of the country. The Rockies and the northern plains will be inundated with bitter cold Arctic air over the next 12 to 24 hours or so. Several inches of accumulating snow is likely in many parts of the Rocky Mountain States region, as well as the northern plains. Denver, Colorado is still quite warm this morning, about 40 degrees or so. Temperatures will drop throughout the afternoon in the Denver metro region towards freezing by nightfall. Snow will pick up. By tomorrow morning, Denver should be in the single digits, perhaps with 4 to 8 inches of snow on the ground by later in the day on Wednesday. This Arctic outbreak works its way across the country, reaches the eastern states by the weekend, and therein lies some potential problems for the mid-Atlantic region, as there will be wave after wave of low pressure riding up along the stalled out Arctic frontal boundary zone by the weekend. We'll get more into that over the next few minutes. Well, we showed this map yesterday from the Penn State EWOL site. It's the 24-hour temperature change map. And this really shows well where the Arctic intrusion has already begun. Temperatures here are much colder than they were 24 hours ago. Some 30 degrees right here in the western part of South Dakota. Colder this morning than yesterday morning. 39 degrees right here in southwestern Montana this morning compared to yesterday morning. Just a brutal Arctic outbreak for this time of the year. Now moving towards the Rocky Mountains. And then the northern plains, there will be places that will not reach zero for highs during the midweek and Wednesday, Thursday time frame. Perhaps lows in some parts of the northern plains and the Rocky Mountain States region down to 20 to 30 below zero over the next few nights. Here's a current surface map, and here is high pressure in southwestern Canada. Very strong, cold Arctic high. Colder air now plunging into Montana, into the Rocky Mountain areas of Wyoming, and eventually later today all the way down to Denver. Also the Arctic outbreak reaching the northern plains within the next 12 to 24 hours or so. And all the higher elevations in the interior western states can get several inches of snow out of this over the next 48 hours or so. In addition, the areas in the northern plains across Montana, the Dakotas, Minnesota into perhaps the northern half of Wisconsin can get accumulating snow as well. So not only the bitter cold, but strong winds and accumulating snow in many parts of the U.S. over the next 48 hours or so. Well, here's a nationwide look at the current radar from the AOS Wisconsin website. Lots of areas of snow already this morning here across the Great Lakes region and the northern plains as this Arctic outbreak starts to move south and east. And here, this is all snow out here in the higher elevations out in the interior west. Again, several inches of snow in places like Denver, all throughout the Colorado Rockies. Could get even more than the Denver metro region. Perhaps in the mountains they can get 6 to 12 inches over the next 24 to 36 hours or so, all the way to the Wasatch Mountains out in Utah, and then across the northern plains from Montana, across the Dakotas, Minnesota, into the northern half of Wisconsin, accumulating snow over the next 48 hours. Well, the weather gets very interesting here in the Mid-Atlantic region by the weekend as this Arctic air gradually moves towards the east coast. The full brunt of this Arctic air outbreak will be felt across the Rocky Mountains region into the northern plains. Nonetheless, there certainly will be a cool down here in the Mid-Atlantic region by the weekend. We'll get very mild on Wednesday and especially Thursday, perhaps 60 degrees plus in many I-95 corridor locations by Thursday afternoon, but then it'll start to turn colder on Friday and especially noticeable on Saturday. I thought we'd take a look at the GFS forecast maps for Thursday morning all the way through next Tuesday morning, since it's just a very interesting pattern, and this is not the only Arctic outbreak. There will be another one next week, and we'll see that on Tuesday's forecast week, 1 week ahead of this morning. This is from last night's Zeros at GFS model run, again for Thursday morning. By this time, the cold frontal system associated with that Arctic air outbreak losing some of its punch as it moves to the south and east past the Great Lakes region. We'll be on the warm side of the front on Thursday, and perhaps the warmest day of the week here in the Mid-Atlantic region, although there should be plenty of clouds and perhaps a few showers around. Temperatures could rise to 60-plus degrees in D.C. and Philadelphia, perhaps flirt with the 60-degree mark in the New York City region. Colder air still just affecting a wide area by this time across the northern plains, the Rockies. They'll be very slow to modify here. Temperatures will struggle to get out of the single digits on Wednesday and Thursday, even into Friday in the Denver, Colorado, for example. Just a bitter cold and rather long-lasting Arctic air outbreak for that part of the country. Now here's the forecast map for Friday morning. Now here's when the interesting weather pattern starts to develop. The Arctic front tends to stall out in a southwest to northeast fashion, not far from the east coast over the by the latter part of the week. Again, this is Friday morning's forecast map. Now, wave after wave of low pressure will then tend to ride up along that frontal boundary zone. This is the Friday forecast map. Looks like periods of rain, certainly from the Pennsylvania-Maryland border on north. It looks like steady rain. Most likely, temperatures will reach the upper 40s to lower 50s for highs. Certainly warm enough for rain on Friday, but cooler than it will be on Thursday, as again, temperatures could peak out at 60-plus degrees on Thursday. Let's now jump ahead to Saturday morning. Come Saturday morning, that frontal system still kind of hanging around the east coast in a southwest to northeast fashion. One wave of low pressure now starting to pull out towards the north and east. There could be some lingering showers Saturday morning along the I-95 corridor, perhaps cold enough by then for a snow shower to be mixed in here. But that pulls out. Cold air kind of eases in. It looks colder on Saturday than it will be on Friday. Now let's jump ahead to Sunday morning. And here's the forecast map for Sunday morning. This is when it really gets interesting for the I-95 corridor. Tremendously strong high pressure here. Always the key to our wintertime storm scenario possibilities here in the northeastern part of the country. This edges in towards the northeastern U.S. by Sunday morning. Even a cold air damming pattern. When you see the isobars kind of kink like this at the surface, this is indicative of cold air driving south and east of the Appalachian Mountains and potentially setting us up for ice on Sunday. And here another wave of low pressure moving up along that frontal boundary zone, which still resides here along the east coast. And again, with this tremendously strong cold high pressure to the north, this could be setting us up for ice or perhaps snow or even rain on Sunday. Still a little too far to say, but the potential is there for some frozen precipitation. This spells ice to me for Sunday in much of the Mid-Atlantic region with this very cold, low-level air. Now, by Monday, we'll see that it looks like whatever begins perhaps as a frozen precipitation period will likely eventually change to rain. Let's now jump ahead to Monday. Indeed, according to last night's Zero-Z GFS model run, a low pressure pulls out of the Gulf states and drives up to the north and west of the big cities along the I-95 corridor. So the warmer air tends to come back in at the low levels, at the surface levels, by perhaps Sunday night, Monday time frame. So there could be some frozen precipitation on Sunday, but it's likely to change over to rain. But now let's jump ahead to Tuesday to start to see the next Arctic air outbreak. And here's the forecast map from 1 week from today. Next Tuesday morning, that wave of low pressure pulls to the north and east. Another Arctic air mass plunges into the Great Lakes region and into the Mid-Atlantic region. And one thing I want to show here is the trajectory of this air 1 week from today. Follow these isobars, and the air just comes out of northern Canada in this fashion directly towards the Great Lakes and the Mid-Atlantic region. This spells another bitter cold air mass for much of the country come the early and middle part of next week, with air coming from way up north in the northern part of Canada. So a bitter cold Arctic outbreak for much of the nation this week, and it looks like there'll be a follow-up bitter cold Arctic air outbreak early part of next week. More on that as the week progresses. That's it for now for the SIweather.com. I'm the SI meteorologist, Paul Dorian.